Hello, everyone. We're going to be talking about this Leupold RDS BDC. Okay, so this is very interesting. This is a red dot that has a dial-up feature in the turn, right? So you zero this in at 100 yards, and then that would be 200 yards. You go all the way to 300 yards, 400 yards. You go all the way around to 500 yards. Actually, it goes all the way up to 600 yards. Okay. And then it has a zero stop. So when you go all the way around, you come back to the one. Okay, so you're gonna zero in at 100 yards. So, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about how to set the elevation here, because the wind is pretty simple, right? You just turn this, but in order to set the elevation, you have to remove that cap. So, so they give you this little Allen key here, and you're just gonna put that. And I actually looked online, and I didn't see any videos that covered this. So the instructions really didn't kind of sucked on this particular feature. So I thought it'd be worth doing a video. So you're gonna loosen up the Allen screws, and then you're gonna take this off, okay? And this is how you're gonna zero the scope in, right? Because if you look over here, you see that little ball over there, right towards the left side. That's gonna basically hit your zero stop, which is right there. See that where this thing's pointing? That's your zero stop. So that's not going to allow it to go past that. So initially, like, I didn't give much thought to it, and I want to zero this thing in. So as I'm trying to zero it in, I realized that I needed to go lower. I needed to dial lower, and I wasn't able to dial lower. So the only way you're going to be able to get lower is to remove this cap, and then you're just going to use your fingers here, and then you're just going to you're going to turn this to zero it in, just like you normally would do. Now it has 1/4 adjustments, 1/4 click adjustments in MOA. So what that means is that you're gonna be doing like twice. Like if you're used to like a half MOA adjustment scopes, you're gonna be doing twice the clicking. Okay. So after you zero this in, you're gonna at 100 yards, right? You're gonna put this back on. All right, you're going to put it right up against that line there, all right? And then you're going to put doing this one-handed now, put the Allen key, nope, I jumped over it. Get the Allen key in the Allen screw, there it goes. And actually, I'm going to use, right, there it goes, got it. Do the other side. And you really don't have to crank down like super hard on this. These Allen screws are kind of soft, and they, in general, you don't want to be stripping these things out. Or what you don't want to do is like change the zero. Okay, so that's how you're going to so that's tight. So that's at the 1. So now you dial up and you come back down to your 0. Okay, so I can be going back and forth on this. I'm always going to come back down to my 0. I am going to have to test this out since I moved it to make sure I didn't move it by accident. So so first of all, let's talk about the price. I looked this up. Amazon has this for $300. Which, like I said, like when you think Leupold, you're thinking like super expensive scopes. So at $300, this isn't bad. It's big. Actually, hold on, let me get a tape measure. All right, so it is about 5.5 inches long. You got this. The base has 3 screws over there. Your base is about 3 inches long. So, like normally, I put my bubble level in the back. Here, I have to put it in the front for the purpose of zeroing. You always want to zero at a bubble level, and this is really the best type to get. If you are canted when you are zeroing, here's the thing: if you just look at your fingers, right? Take your 2 fingers like this, and like just twist it like this or like this, and you can see how if you have a cant, right? Because let's say the bottom is your barrel and the top is your line of sight, and you twist it like this, you can easily see how you would be like up to 2 inches off at 100 yards. if your cant is wrong. Okay, so your cant has to be right. Any precision rifles I have a bubble level. This is the type you want. You don't want the kind that sticks off the side that can get bent. This goes right on top of the Picatinny, and it doesn't matter. I can hit this, whatever. This is not going to bend or move. That's the style you want. Usually I put it back here under the magnifier. In this case, I had to put it to the front, and the reason is because this scope is just so big. So I had to put the magnifier in the front, in the back here, right? And then basically it didn't leave a whole lot of space for the red dot scope here. So I went as far up as I could without going on the handguard. Okay, so that's as far up as I could get. Now, if you do find yourself straddling the handguard, on the barrels, on the round barrel nuts that like pinch on the bottom here, right? What you can do is you can loosen that up, in which case your rail will have a little bit of play. So loosen up your rail, lock down your scope, and then that's going to kind of force your handguard into position, and then you can tighten up your rail. With this one is actually screwed. It has screws that go into the barrel nut, which is timed, so you can't move it. So however this sits, like if this didn't sit good, if I saw I was needing to adjust it really hard to the left or to the right, it meant that the rail was slightly crooked. I would have had to bring this back a little bit. Okay, but this is working out really good right there, because it's just touching the handguard just a little bit. Okay, so now as far as height, this sits at about an inch, 2.5 inches above the bore. Okay, so usually I prefer 2 3/4 inches, which gives me like a lower 1/3 co-witness. This one's going to give you an absolute co-witness with the iron sights. What that meant is for the magnifier, I had to remove one of the spacers here, right? So I have a whole bunch of these also magnifiers. They're cheap. They're like between $150 and $200. So I just took one of them. I just removed the spacers, so that would allow this to line up. So let's take a look through the back here. Go back here so we get a focus. So you can see well, there's the red dot. So this is dot only, which I generally like. I prefer a circle dot. I like that 65 MOA circle. The 65 MOA circle would be very useful for your range estimating, okay? Because you have a bullet drop here, right? So you got, that's for 100 yards, 200 yards, 300 yards, etc. Okay, but how do you know the distance? So yeah, you might say, okay, a rangefinder. I mean, did you remember to bring it with you? Okay, so if you have a 65 MOA circle, right, at 200 yards, your man is going to stand with his feet at the bottom of the circle, and his head's going to come up to the dot. Okay, at 300 yards, he's going to come up 3/4 of the way. At 400 yards, he's going to come up half the way. And at 500 yards, he's going to be equal to the little hash. Okay, so that's how you would judge your distance, right? And then let's say you look at it and you see, hey, my man's coming up like halfway between the bottom of the circle and the dot. Oh, great, he's at 400 yards. Let's swing this around to the floor over here, and now I just put the dot on the target. Put my magnifier on, and between the magnifier and the BDC. You can make good hits at 400 yards and 500 yards with this, okay? Now, when I'm shooting at that distance, I generally prefer a 6x magnifier versus a 3x, but, I can make the shots with either one. It's a lot easier with the 6x, okay? So it is a little bit big. It's obviously going to be a little bit heavier. So you want to push this as far front as you can, as far forward as you can, so that you can still stay on your upper receiver. This way you got room for your magnifier behind it, and then the bubble levels is going to go up here in the front. So those are like the 3 things that you need, right? And then you got your sling over here, and then you figure out where you're going to put the rest of the stuff, right? So with this one here, I could put a light either on the side here, right, with a pressure pad on top, or I could put a pistol light on top, right? They're usually pretty low profile, so you can still see over it. So the nice thing about the pistol lights is that they're easy on, easy off. Whereas with the right side light with pressure pad, you're kind of like locked in. It doesn't come on and off that easy because you're zip tying down wires. So the light can go up there. And then the nice thing about this type of a rail here is if this was an HTF gun, what I would do is I would put my rear flip up sight over here and my front flip up sight over there, and that's just a storage spot. Okay, actually, you can even put it here. You might be able to get a co-witness. You put it here, flip it up, put the front one over here. That at the very least, you got a parking spot where you got flip up sights on the gun. Up to 100 yards, you will still be able to hit your target, right? If you think of it, I use a Glock 43, and I sometimes get hits at 100 yards. With just a pistol, right? And what's the sight radius on that? So this sight radius will work for an emergency situation. And then down here in the grip, you keep an Allen key, so you can move your, if for whatever reason, let's say you were no longer going to be using these optics, then you can move your iron sights around to a better position. Okay, so they're my thoughts on that. So as far as this red dot here, it's big, $300. It's not terribly expensive. You're getting dot only, so you do get the BDC. So generally, I prefer. I like red dots that have the BDC in the reticle, right? That have like the ACSS in the reticle versus the dial-up. But some people, they don't like that. If you want a red dot that has a BDC that you can dial, this is going to be good for you. You're going to like this. Okay, if that's what you like to do. If you like to dial, this is good. This is the scope for you. Okay. Generally, I like to hold on the reticle with red dots. So I like the ACSS ones. But yeah, some people are going to want this instead. As far as turning on the dot, there's a button that you push over here, and it kind of cycles. Let me get behind this, and you guys can kind of look in there. So when you look through here, it kind of I prefer the up and down. With this, you're cycling through. It does like this. So you have to keep cycling through to get to what you want, low, high, whatever. So that can be a bit of a pain in the ass, like trying to get to what you want to be at. So as far as, like I said earlier, you're going to zeroing it at 100 yards. And then what I did here is I went out to 200 yards and I confirmed my zero, okay? And ideally, I'd rather go to 300 yards, but I don't have 300 yards at this location. So at 300 yards, that's where you want to true out your reticle, making the adjustments that you need. Because if you're true at 300 yards, everything above that or below that is going to be good. Okay. Now with the BDCs, if you put this on a shorter barrel, or you put this on a longer barrel, or you're shooting lighter ammunition, or you're shooting heavier ammunition, it's going to affect your BDC a little bit. So that's why I kind of go to the middle point, the 300 yards. And that's where I would true this out. And then if you're using, because this is a BDC for 223.556 or 308, if you true this out at 300 yards, like at 100 yards, yeah, you might be a little bit off compared to what you're used to, but you're going to be within a couple of inches. So it's going to be very workable. Okay. So that's what I would do. Get a first zero at 300 yards. Get a first zero at 100 yards, and then true it out at 300 yards. The main thing with this is you got to remember, right? So like earlier, I was shooting at 200 yards, right? You got to remember that when you're done shooting, you got to come back to your 100 yard zero, right? So whatever you're doing here, you got to remember, because otherwise, if you leave this at, like, let's say 500 yards. And the next time you're shooting, let's say 100 yards or 50 yards, you're going to be way high, okay? And that can be like potentially dangerous. So with red dots, I'm used to like holding on the reticle, right? So it's just, now this is more of a me issue than, a scope problem, right? But if you're used to using red dots where you're holding on the reticle or using a holdover, right? And now all of a sudden here you're dialing up to, let's say, 400 yards, and then you go back to 100 yards, and you're just not used to like coming back to your zero, coming all the way back down, and you forget to do that. You're going to be shooting way high. So that's, you just got to build up that muscle memory. Just get used to always coming back to that one. And if I use a scope, what I would do is just develop the habit of always coming back to zero, like when I finish shooting, and then when I'm about to shoot it, so you do it at both ends, at the end and at the beginning, to make sure that you're always at in the right position. Let's get this cap back on over here. All right, so I mean, yeah, for $300, it's a nice feature. It's very interesting, you know, having a red dot with a dial-up feature. So let me know what you guys think. Drop some comments below. I'll talk to you all soon.